has given details of the kind of advice savers will receive when his shake-up of the private pension system takes effect next year. He says that millions of people who are going to be given unrestricted access to their pension funds will be offered free and impartial guidance in person, online or by telephone, rather than advice from their pension provider. Earlier, I spoke to Jennie Kreser from Surrey, a partner and head of pensions at Silverman Sherliker in the city, to find out more about what the Chancellor is proposing.
I think what he's trying to say is that the government are going to allow for everybody to have some guidance before they decide what they're going to do with their pension. And I use the expression guidance deliberately. It isn't going to be tailored, specific financial advice. That isn't going to be the freebie that the government's giving away. All that the government is going to say is that it will make available some information, basically, about the options and the choices, the wider choices that people will now have when deciding what to do with their pension pots.
Is he scared of the fact that he thinks we may not know what to do and we get handed a multiple of thousands of pounds and we're going to blow it all on going on a cruise or drinking ourselves silly?
Or buying the famous Lamborghini. Well, I suspect that there is an element of that behind it. I think, in fairness, Steve Webb, the pensions minister who made that slightly off-the-cuff and flippant comment about you can go and blow it all on your Lamborghini, was being a little light-hearted when he said it, but of course, it's what everybody has focused on. The reality, of course, is that for the vast majority of people, their pensions pot is not going to be that great, £30,000, £40,000. Well, if you think of it in those terms, or while it seems like an awful lot to a lot of people, and it is an awful lot to a lot of people, in pensions terms, in relation to what that would buy you as a pension, it actually wouldn't buy you very much. And I think that, therefore, there's got to be a slight... people have got to be aware that this all sounds lovely and fine, and yes, lots of flexibility. You're no longer going to have to just buy an annuity, which was effectively an insurance policy. If you bought it and you died the next day, that was your money gone, end of it. Your family couldn't inherit what you'd left, and so that's why a lot of people felt, well, annuities aren't fit for purpose. But of course, actually, for a lot of people, annuities will remain fit for purpose. They just need a bit of tweaking to make them a better product.
And it sounds to me like we need more independent advice than just a piece of contact either by telephone or online for this, as you say, guidance, because people perhaps just don't understand what the pros and cons are, what the risks are. So actually, a short conversation with somebody or a bit of online box ticking isn't really going to be enough.
I think for a lot of people, it may not. I mean, for a lot of people, it will be fine. They'll have these small little pots, and it will be a fairly simple decision as to what they're going to do with it. But for perhaps those who have got larger pots or are financially more savvy, then yes, pensions, we know, are not easy. And I suppose the danger is that as more financial products come on stream, and part of the thinking behind this is it gives insurance companies and providers greater flexibility to come up with ever more complicated and exotic kind of products. People are going to need more than just, well, this is what you can do, this is what perhaps might not be a good idea for you to do. But the organisations which are going to be able to provide this guidance, organisations like the Pensions Advisory Service and the Money Advice Service, aren't permitted by law to give specific tailored financial advice. That can only be given by people who are authorised to do so, independent financial advisors, for example. And of course, they're not likely to do it for nothing.
And are there enough of them to deal with the influx of people who be asking for that advice is the other thing, I suppose.
Very good question. There's not as many as there used to be. There's been a lot of changes within the independent financial sector as well. The Financial Services Authority, it's now called the Financial Conduct Authority, have introduced restrictions on how they can be paid several years ago, and a lot of financial advisors basically just threw their hands up at that point and said, we're not going to get all these extra qualifications and so forth. And so there are a lot less than there used to be. But I think there are still plenty out there, and a lot of them are very, very good. They may have a not such a good reputation because perhaps historically some of them weren't as well trained as they should have been. But now the level of qualification they have to have means that they are well qualified, but their services may not necessarily be free.
That's Jennie Kreser from Silverman Sherliker with some advice about what Chancellor George Osborne is saying about our pensions earlier today.